everybody, Josh here for Whiskey Wednesday for Argonaut Wine and Liquor. Today I am joined by a very special guest. We have Rory with us. He's the Brown-Forman Scotch Ambassador. So representing these three great distilleries that we have on the table today. We've got Glenglassaugh, we have Benriach, and Glendronach. So we're going to jump into a bunch of these. We got a lot going on, so we'll start with what we got in the glass. And Rory, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, this is exciting. Exciting for us, actually having Glenglassaugh here. So if you haven't heard of this distillery, this is one that's been closed most of its life. It was closed in 1986 and then reopened somewhat recently in 2008. And so we're having a 12-year right now, which might not sound like much. For most single malts, 12 years is the flagship. But for us, it's the first 12-year-old we've had since 1986. So this is exciting to see. And Glenglassaugh, to give you the kind of quick overview, it's a lovely coastal distillery in the northeast of Scotland. So kind of straddling the Speyside and the Highland border there up in the northeast, but we're about a 4-minute walk to the beach. And you can actually kind of see that emulated in our lovely bottle design that came out this year. Kind of emulating the waves off the ocean here. Lovely cork here, which is supposed to represent sea glass for that lovely beach that we sit upon there. So this whiskey that we are trying, 12 years old, matured in a combination of 3 casks: bourbon casks, red wine casks, and predominantly Oloroso sherry casks. And again, maturing on our coastal warehouses, we kind of get this lovely impartation of salinity from that sea air, but also the red wine casks, kind of giving us this tannic body as well, and the tannins in the middle of the palate really elevating that coastal note here as well as offering the kind of the red berry compote notes here. So give us a wee nose. So for me, it's really sherry driven. You kind of get dates, figs, some lovely chocolatey notes as well. No smoke at all, although Glenglassaugh, we'll get onto it, does peaty whiskey as well, but this is unpeated.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, you definitely get those notes that you'd associate with a red wine cask, you know, some of the tannins, some of that, but it's a lot more kind of fruity and tropical than I would have expected.
And that's a key word there, tropical.
Absolutely.
And it comes through in this one, but it really comes through, as we'll find in the next whiskey, in Glenglassaugh's house style. So before we've even put it into a cask is, I would say, dominated by pineapple, grapefruit, even papaya and mango. And you get kind of whispers it in this, but it's more dominated by that kind of red wine cask, which in some whiskeys work really well, some maybe not so well, but in this it's integrated well into that coastal profile, the fruit profile, and the sherry coming through as well.
Totally, I agree. Really, you know, kind of a complex whiskey. You know, you get those tropical notes, you get those notes from the red wine cask as well. I mean, that's really well done. And also, you know, a little bit of the salinity from being close to the ocean, which is always, I love that note in scotches.
Exactly, and that's the thing. We talk about kind of terroir and whiskey regions a lot in Scotland, thank you.
Absolutely.
But this really showcases that coastal proximity. And like I said, we're a 4-minute walk to that beach. One of the most beautiful parts of Scotland. The beach that we sit upon, and it's a nice kind of segue into this lovely whiskey called Sandend. This is our non-age statement whiskey. Sandend is the name of the beach that we are that 4-minute walk to. And Sandend is popular with surfers, if you're brave enough to go in the water up that part of Scotland, thick wetsuit. Dolphin pods as well. Joggers, dog walkers, people love it up there. It's a beautiful beach. Even some cool World War II artifacts up there as well. This one is going to showcase the Glenglassaugh tropical fruit note. So in this, it's really about the tropical note of pineapple, mango, even some grapefruit coming through as well. But more interestingly, the 3 casks we're using are bourbon, Oloroso sherry, and Manzanilla sherry casks. Manzanilla, some people might know what that is, but it's a coastal sherry from Spain. It's actually aged in biological aging, which is essentially not allowing it to kind of get the depth of an Oloroso or Pedro Jimenez. So it's more effervescent, more crisp and fruity. And being a coastal sherry, it lifts up all that lovely coastal note found in this. And it's coming in at 50.5%, which is a lovely ABV to see for any single malt, but really just packing in the flavor there. But beautiful whiskey. So on the nose, just so fruity. It's hard to see many whiskies in Scotland that can emulate tropical fruit off the bat.
Totally.
Just incredible stuff.
And I think you did a really good job of describing it before we even tried it. I mean, it's, you know, you get some similar notes here, but, you know, those red wine notes, those tannins, those are all toned down, and then it just lets the fruit explode through. Right?
It's not, and that's the funny thing, when we talk about whiskey and Scotch whiskey particularly, it's like, well, what is the whiskey trying to tell me? Is it the cask? Is it the place? Or is it the distillery profile? And I feel like for this one in particular, It's really about driving that distillery profile through. So it's that tropical note that I've kind of been harking on about here. It really shines through in this whiskey. So it's really showcasing Glenglassaugh as a distillery.
And that, I mean, for Glenglassaugh to focus on that as their, signature kind of note is very unique. I mean, you don't get that in very many scotches. So, and when you do, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, and honestly, you don't see those notes emerging until 20 plus years in some single malts. Like, it takes that long to get to a tropical fruit note. It's kind of why Glenglassaugh, in many ways, kind of has been opened and closed, because for single malt purposes, it wasn't really what people were wanting in their single malt. But now, as that category has just exploded, people are looking for some interesting distillery notes, and Glenglassaugh certainly offers that. But as we go into this, slightly different. This is going to be peaty, smoky.
Definitely changing gears here.
Changing gears, but still having that through line there. And I kind of love how the peat and also port casks in this and that tropical fruit style play together in this. So we're using bourbon, sherry, and port casks. And port and peat go so well together. The sweetness of the port casks, the smokiness, obviously, of the peat just coming together and just creating this lovely, gentle, smoky whiskey. And then again, with that tropical note, it's almost like charred mango coming into play here. A little bit of fermented soy. So it comes almost like an umami note coming through, because that coastal note, that interplay between the sweetness of the port and the savoriness of the peat smoke, beautifully done here. And so Port Soy is the name of this whiskey. And this is actually the name of the neighboring harbour town right next door to Glenglassaugh. Very famous for its marble, which it exported to the Palace of Versailles back in the day. But now it's really famous for its fish and just its quintessential kind of Scottish harbour town look. And so we kind of named it and paying homage to that old town there next to us. And this one is just coming through really beautiful. But what's interesting about this peat is that it's coming from the mainland of Scotland. So when you take a cross section of that peat, it's more wood-based compared to the peat of Islay. So Islay is more homogeneous, more moss-based, while the peat up in the Highlands of Scotland, where we're sourcing it for this, is more wood-based. So it's that sweet campfire, bonfire smoke, as opposed to the more iodine kind of medicinal smoke.
I was just about to say that. If you're someone who's been turned off by peaty scotches in the past, by that big iodine-y note that, that tastes like, it can taste like Band-Aids sometimes, right?
Lovely descriptors, but they all kind of make sense, and we all love them, but yeah.
Right. This isn't that, right?
No.
This is definitely more of that campfire, charcoal, sitting around by a fire, drinking something like this. Yeah. That's what that reminds me of.
And it's more reminiscent. I think it's the tangible things we can actually kind of put our memory into. Like, this barbecue. It's, again, charred mango, so it's barbecue pineapple as well. Things that we all know, but maybe Band-Aids, no one's really, ingesting them, hopefully not. But yeah, it's a very different flavor profile.
Definitely. And it's really nice that those tropical fruit notes still do shine through on this one.
They do. It's not linear. It's still, again, every good whiskey should have balance between the distillery profile, the cask profile, and all of these do a great job of showcasing different parts of that, but maintaining that balance, as opposed to being so smoky, it's just the smoke, so cask forward, it's just the cask. So a balanced distillery. But yes, this is a lovely one to find out.
Absolutely. And so these two are on the shelf right now. This one we will be getting in tomorrow morning. So keep an eye out. I mean, they will all be on our single malt shelf. Fantastic whiskeys, definitely worth a shot.
Absolutely.
And then moving on to our second distillery.
Switch gears here. So we're going to kind of hop across, going westward to Speyside, where we're going to try lovely Ben-Riach here. Now, we are going to scratch the surface with this distillery because they do a little bit of everything here. We do classic Speyside, which is apples and pears, honey, vanilla. We also do heavily peated Speyside, which, again, everything I said about the peat coming from the mainland applies to the smoky stuff at Ben-Riach. And we do an eclectic array of cask maturation. We even dabble in triple distilled stuff as well, albeit all of this stuff here that we're tasting is double distilled. So, kind of jack of all trades. This whiskey I wanted to showcase because, again, if you're new to peated whiskey, if you don't like it or you kind of had bad experience with it, this is one you certainly should try. It's using Marsala casks, bourbon casks, and sherry casks. And the Marsala really dampens down the smoke note. So it's almost like charred orange and dark chocolate.
I was just about to say the peat does not come through as much on the nose as I was going to expect. You
So
call it
subtle.
the Smoky 12, and it's really subtle on the nose.
Still there, but it's not punching through, and it's woven into all the other flavors of the casks, the distillery profile. And Ben-Riach is very fruit-driven. Apples and pears and orange really punching through here with the cask and with the peat. Just beautifully intermingled.
Wow. Yeah, again, it's not a giant smoke knock you in the face type of whiskey, right?
Not at all. It's so soft.
It's almost on the back of the palate where you get some of those tropical fruit notes, some of those, other red fruits, things like that. And then there's just a little bit of hint of smoke on the back that just kind of brings it all together.
And Marsala is funny because it's syrupy, sweet, and orange driven. So you really get this lovely balance of kind of that deeper, darker fruit note married with the smoke as well, which just takes the edge away.
And then we're moving on to actually one of my personal favorite distilleries, Glendronach. This 15-year won Whiskey of the Year?
Whiskey of the Year, 2020 San Francisco Spirits Competition. This one is, I would say, the sherried single malt whiskey that everyone should have on their shelf. This is the one that it just ticks all the boxes. We're using Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez casks here, so a combination of two different sherry casks married together at this lovely sweet spot that is 15 years. I will unabashedly say this is my desert island whiskey because this is the one that just, again, ticks all the boxes for a sherried whiskey. It's dark chocolate, it's orange, it's figs, it's dates, it's dark kind of raisin notes as well, but really maraschino cherry punching through here. Just beautiful.
Well, and it's your desert island whiskey. It's one of my birthday whiskeys. I think the year it won, the award in San Francisco, that was the whiskey I brought home for my birthday. And, every year it just is so, so good. I mean, you guys do a fantastic job with this one.
Again, old school sherried single malt here, around since 1826. We've been doing this since that time period when people were drinking sherry. So that's the casks we had access to. We just haven't changed much. So got a long history of using these casks. This is beautiful whiskey.
Red fruits, but it's complex. I mean,
long finish.
Long finish just sits on the tongue. I mean, that's something you could just, as we talk about on Whiskey Wednesday all the time, something you could just sit and break down and have another sip and keep going, and all of a sudden, half the bottle's gone. You're like, where did that go?
That's the one you want to bring up with friends, though. That's the one
Absolutely.
That just anyone that's maybe looking at single malt or is into that style of sherried whiskey, again, ticks all the boxes. Yeah. Beautiful.
It's a great way of putting it. Yeah, ticking all the boxes.
Yeah. And then lastly, we've last maybe the kind of the most powerful one to last. This is the 21-year-old Glendronach. This is called Parliament, not because of the House of Parliament in London, but actually for Parliament of Rooks, which is a Parliament of Rooks. They're just a collection of basically crows. Rooks are like crows that have sat at the distillery since 1826, and it's a mark of good luck, essentially. So as long as they're there, we're making good whiskey. So we've devoted that to them. And this is kind of what you'd classify as a sherry bomb. PX, Oloroso sherry casks, minimum 21 years here, dessert in a glass. Not smoky, but you will get kind of sitting in an old study, pipe smoked tobacco, sandalwood, espresso, plum pudding, dark chocolate, just big, bold, and rich this whiskey is.
I mean, I don't have any better descriptors than that. I mean, right? No, that's a treat. I mean, that's just a whiskey that, whatever the price is, bring it out with special friends, special occasions. I mean, that is something that, you and a group can sit down and just talk about, think about, go every sip, it'll be a little different.
Absolutely.
And there is so much going on there. It is fantastic. I love this whiskey.
It's coming in at 48% as well, which is a lovely ABV because, again, balance is key for any good whiskey. And this age range, at that, using exclusively sherry casks, it can just make a whiskey totally unbalanced. But keeping it at 48% gives you that balance between the distillery profile and the cask. So it packs a lot of flavor in there. It's incredible stuff.
Absolutely. And, this whole line is fantastic. Rory, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I mean, these whiskeys are awesome. If you guys haven't tried these, I mean, these are brand new to us. They'll be on the shelf, like I said, today and tomorrow. So they're still coming in. So brand new, really worth trying. Ben Rioch, we have the entire line, which unfortunately we don't have enough time to try, both of the other two lines with us. But, we've got either 4 or 5 whiskeys.
4 or 5. I got 5.
Yeah,
Some
5
really
from,
cool stuff
from them. And then, I think 5 from Glendronach as well. And they are all fantastic, all worth trying. Before we hop off, we have a couple announcements for you guys. So we are starting our Buffalo Trace Antique Collection and Pappy Van Winkle Lottery. So the box for, like we always do, 1 entry, no purchase necessary, 1 entry per Argonaut single barrel you buy. Also, these whiskeys will all be included in that lottery as well. So if you buy any of these bottles, fill out an extra entry, throw it in the box. And to help you guys out with that, with getting entries for that lottery, we are doing a single barrel sale. So from now until whenever we get our allocation, which is how long the lottery will run, we're going to discount almost all of our single barrels, everything we have on the shelf right now, and even some that are coming in here soon. and those will be on sale until we get our allocation, until the lottery closes, and you'll get better chances to get into that lottery. So Rory, thank you so much again. This was a treat.
Sancha.
And Slancha, and come on down, give them a shot. Cheers.
Cheers.